Donald Trump is the favorite to win the 2024 presidential election and has put deep blue states in play this cycle. Make sure to hit the like button to subscribe if you enjoy analysis just like this. And so looking at my polling aggregates and my national level, Donald Trump is up by 3.6% in the national aggregate, which is the exact result that Atlas Intel got about a month ago, which has been a pretty accurate poll in 2020 and 2022, as well as internationally in other countries like Brazil, Chile, Spain, Colombia, and in Argentina. So they've been accurate everywhere. And right now, our aggregate is showing the exact same popular vote victory that they just polled last month for Donald Trump. And they got Biden plus 4.7 in 2020. They got, I believe it was Trump plus, I think it was Republicans plus 3.1 in the ballot. And they ended up winning it by 2.9 in 2022. So they've had a pretty good track record. And our aggregate is lining up with theirs. And what's pretty fascinating is that they're not even in the aggregate anymore because we had to drop them because the poll was too old. We'll see what their new national poll is going to look like, which I believe comes next week. That's going to really shake up the aggregate and really frame the race, because if Trump gains from where he is right now, he's basically going to flip New Mexico, Minnesota, and Maine. And at that point, he'd be heading towards a pretty decent win in the Electoral College based on the way things are trending right now. So that final Atlas Intel poll is going to be a big deal. And the reason why is because they have a high score in my polling aggregate where I actually end up giving grades to, pollsters based on how accurate their margin was, how big their sample is. The less amount of undecideds you have, the higher score you get. And if you have a likely voter screen, you get a pretty good, score boost. So when you do that, we create the weights. And when I do this for 2020, I actually end up getting Biden plus 4.9. And he won the national popular vote in 2020 by 4.5 percentage points. And so it's pretty fascinating. When I do my model for 2020, I actually get a pretty accurate result. Now, I did have one of the columns delete here, but before I deleted this column, it does give me a 306 Biden map. I kind of have to re-input these again. I was trying to play around with the model and it's just disappeared and I can't get it back. So I'm going to have to play around with those now. But before that, I basically had a perfect map, pretty much. I had a pretty good map going there. And so now when we look at some of these aggregates for the 2024 election, we see that Donald Trump is absolutely dominating in all the swing states. And states like Minnesota are very, very close. Harris did kind of gain in that aggregate for some reason, but Trump gained in the New Hampshire one, and now he's up. Now, the problem is that the deep blue state aggregates only have like one or two polls because they're not being polled frequently enough. And so I do suspect that there are going to be big misses in my estimates in those states. But I think the swing state averages like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, those have a lot more polling. And so I think those are going to be closer to reality. Usually, a lot of the times, the less polls you have in an aggregate, the more inaccurate it tends to be. I found this with my New Mexico aggregate for 2020. There was only like 3 polls, and it was like a Biden plus 14.5 point win when he only won it by 10. And the same thing for Virginia. I only had like 2 or 3. And it ended up being Biden plus 5.4 when he really won it by 10.1. So it's a little bit iffy. But then, aggregates that had a lot of polls, you basically got like almost a perfect result. So it's pretty interesting to see what's going on here. And then I have to figure out the electorates for all of the battlegrounds. But essentially, I've created something where Donald Trump is now ahead, and the same map would have predicted a Joe Biden victory back in the 2020 presidential election. And we see that Donald Trump went to the Al Smith dinner with Kamala Harris not going, which is not good for her because she needed a moment and she didn't even take advantage of it. She sent a pre-recorded video, and it's just very not appealing to the average voter. And the last time that a candidate skipped the Al Smith dinner was back in 1984, where Mondale skipped it. And then look what happened to him. He lost in the popular vote by 18, and he actually completely lost the Electoral College, except Minnesota Minnesota and the District of Columbia. Those were the only two places where he actually ended up winning in. And we see here she went on the Fox News interview with Bret Baier, which ended up being a disaster for her campaign. And the fact she even went on Fox News shows very big desperation for her, because they had been trying to avoid the media the entire time. And so the fact that she even took the chance to go on Fox shows that they are really down in their internals. Donald Trump is up in the betting odds by literally a 60-40 margin, up in all the Rust Belt states comfortably, Arizona being his best state. And looking at the polling map on RCP, Trump is up in all the battleground states in the polling right now. I mean, he cannot be in a better position. And looking at Gallup, we see here, party ID, Republicans are up, party being able to handle most important problem, the Republicans are up, U.S. satisfaction is low, so that favors the Republican. Economic confidence is low, so that favors Republicans. Part of being able to keep America prosperous, 6-point win for Republicans. Presidential job approval, 39% for Biden. That's a Republican advantage. So it's not looking good at all across the board right now. And we see that things are just not looking good for the incumbent party. And I'm thinking I'm going to be ready to make my call next week to see who is going to win the general election, which at this point, it seems very well likely that Donald Trump will be the person that I project to win the presidency. But we're going to be waiting until the Alice Intel poll comes out. I think once that comes out and we kind of look at where we're at in the race, I think that's when I'm going to make my final decision on who I think is going to win the 2024 election. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe. If you want more content just like this, make sure to go to betonline.com, where you can bet on the latest betting odds for the presidency, as well as where the states are going to go, the over and unders on the margins, as well as the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate election. So make sure to go ahead and do that, guys. I will see you all very, very soon.